Recording in progress.
Kakadosh, Boker Tov, Masechet Yevamot Daf Amud Aleph. We are where it says, where we just finished off by saying that the siman was met nolav yibem, met nolav yibem, because that was the case where it had to be that the brother died, then there was a newborn of another brother, then there was the yibum done, then again another brother died, another newborn was born, another baby was born, a brother, and then there was another yibum done, and then we come and we answered lerebi hani klali hani klale letle. What does that mean? According to the pshat of Rav Safra, remember that there were three pshatim until now. According to the pshat of Rav Safra, Rav and Rav Chia were also talking about a case of a machloket, and therefore, since Rav Chia said his words to do with our Mishnah, so it comes out that we're talking about the machloket. And we just said that we don't deal with machlokot. So the Gemara answers, "LeRebbi hani klale letzle." For Rebbe, we don't have these klalim, which means he doesn't hold of this klalim that in all of them I'm going to come and I'm going to read that, two sisters are prohibited, two sisters permitted, one yes, one no, v'chule, v'chule. So therefore we don't have it. And this is where we're starting today. Okay, Rav Ada. Rav Ada Karchina kamed Rav Kahana amar mishmed Rava. Rav Ada Karchina kamed Rav Kahana says in the name of Rava, Leolam itle leRebbi hani klale. Really, Rebbe does have this klal that we mentioned of Rochia. But this is what he meant to say to Levi. Remember, this is because Rebbe gave Levi on the head. You remember? Rebbe comes and he told Levi, he doesn't have a brain in his head. Yeah. So he comes and he says like this. Yeah. Imo anusat aviv, the mother, when it's to do with anusat aviv, bechada mashkachala. Betarte lo mashkachala. Only in one part of the memra, one part of what he said, you could find it. In two parts of what he said, you cannot find it. Why? And this is where I'm going to share the screen. Why? Because pay attention to this picture. It's this picture right here. If you want, I can make it bigger. Okay, right here. Why? Yaakov. I'm reading also from the picture. Yeah. Yaakov. Yeah, shte achayot anas. So Yaakov Avinu came and he was anas, not Yaakov Avinu. If Yaakov comes and he was anas, yeah, two achayot, achota shehi yevinta mashkachala. You could find the case of achota ki anas shtehem. So this Yaakov over here, he comes and he's anas Rachel and he's anas Leah. Okay, you could find right achota shehi yevinta. Right, but you cannot find hasura lazeh mutar lazeh, okay, which means lo mashkachala, which means like this. Remember, what was the general rule that Rebbe said? Rebbe came and he said, he brought Rabbi Chia. Yeah, ve'amar Rav Yudah amar Rav, v'chen tani Rabbi Chia. Bekulan, listen to my words first. Bekulan ani kore bahen, on all these 15 cases of arayot, I'm going to call Hasura lazeh muteret lazeh, right? Ve'asura lazeh muteret lazeh. Prohibited to one, permitted to the other. Permitted to one, prohibited to the other. Ve'achota sheyi vinta, and achota, which is a sister, choletzet omidebe. She could do chalitza yibum. So now I have to plug that in to this case, and because that's why I want to say that it should be in our Mishnah. So he comes and he says it's not going to happen. Why? Listen to the case. What was the case exactly? Okay, here you had Yaakov in the middle, in the center. You have Rachel and Leah. Okay, so first of all, it says over here, Li'Yaakov shene banim. Yaakov had two children, Reuven and Shimon. These children, Reuven and Shimon, was from a previous marriage, and it's normal. Okay, meaning from a normal marriage, everything.
He's still married. He's not divorced.
Yeah, it's still normal. Now, what happens is, Yaakov has two children, Reuven and Shimon. Yaakov was anas shte achayot. So Yaakov comes and he's me'anes gam et Rachel, gam et Leah. Remember, Rachel and Leah are sisters. Yeah. V'teled Rachel et Levi. So Rachel, right, has Levi, and Leah has Yehuda. Okay. Vayikach Reuven et Rachel anusat aviv. So now Reuven gets married to Rachel, right, which is Anusat Aviv. Remember that Yaakov, remember, it's a machloket, Rabbi Rabbanan, right? Reuven comes and he gets married to Rachel, and Shimon gets married to, right, Leah, which is a sister, which is Anusat Achiv, okay, Anusat Aviv also. Now, Metu Reuven and Shimon Libanim. Reuven and Shimon, they die without children. And now Rachel and Leah, they fall in front of Levi and Yehuda for Yibum. Okay, now, both of them are prohibited to do Yibum. Rachel is Asura Levi, right? Why? Because she's the mother. And Leah is Asura to, right, to him, because it's Achot Imo, the aunt. Yes. No. One more time. Right? Reuven and Shimon die. Okay? Now, Levi has to do Yibum. Okay? Levi, right, should be doing Yibum. Why? Because it's Ach Mina Av. Okay? The Achiv Mina Av. Correct or not? And also Yehuda. The Ach Mina Av. Levi is Ach Mina Av. Vegam Yehuda. Okay, Ach Mina Abba. Gam Levi vegam Yehuda. Yeah, also Levi and also Yehuda. So now the question, Yehuda is what? Of course he's a son of Yaakov. Yeah.
Why is it in
So now what happens is as follows, yeah? What we just said now, in this case, you have a case, Achota Sheyivimta. You have a case where the sister is also Yevama as well, okay? Which means that Leah and Rachel, which are sisters, they fall in front of the same people. So therefore, obviously, as we already mentioned before, Levi cannot do Yibum to Rachel because it's his mother. He can't do Yibum to Leah because it's his mother's sister. Yehuda cannot do Yibum to Leah because it's his mother. Yehuda cannot do Yibum to Rachel because it's his mother's sister. So now, in this case, you found the case that the sister is also Yivimta. That means you have two sisters falling in front of somebody, okay? But you do not have the Seifa part of Rabbi Chia. What was the Seifa part of the Rabbi Chia? Ha'asura lezeh muteret lezeh. Which means until now, all the cases that we learned, we did a crisscross, correct? That means here he cannot do Yibum here, but he can do it over there. And here he cannot do Yibum here, do it over there. That's what was yesterday's stuff. They could cross. Here in our case, they cannot do this cross. So therefore he comes and he says, okay, maybe we're talking about another case. What is another case? Ve'i shte nochriot anas, which that's over here on the bottom. Ve'i shte nochriot anas, right? What does that mean? Two women which are strangers. Strangers mean that they are not sisters. Meaning, we're keeping the same picture of Rachel and Leah, but it's not what? It's not Achayot. There's no sister. So therefore, right? Ve'i, ma? In this case, no. Okay, in this case, Zarot. Yes, right? Shte nashim that are not sisters. Ha'asura lezeh muteret lezeh mashkachna. You do find a case now, that 1 second. Levi, right, cannot do Yibum to Rachel because it's his mother. But he could do Yibum to Leah because Leah has nothing to do with Rachel. Yehuda cannot do Yibum to Leah because it's his mother, but Yehuda could do Yibum to Rachel. So here you have the case of Surah Lazeh, Muter Lazeh, Muter Lazeh, Achut Surah Lazeh, but you do not have the case of Achota Sheyivimta lo mashkachala. You can't find it. So therefore, in this case, it's only half. So therefore, if right now we were trying to plug back the 15 cases in Rabbi Chia, and now Anusat Aviv cannot go back to Rabbi Chia, that's the reason why we do not bring Anusat Aviv in our Mishnah. Because if not, it would have been case 16. We don't bring it because you cannot apply it back. Okay, now Rav Ashi comes and he's going to explain something different. Rav Ashi comes and he says, Leolam let le Rebbe ani klali. Really, be'emet, Rebbe does not hold of this klal of Rabbi Chia, right? And therefore, right, since he doesn't hold of this thing about, it's chotivimto, that he doesn't hold of this interesting thing, right? So 1 second. So if so, why doesn't he bring down Anusat Aviv? right? Why bemet? Anusat aviv was a case that we should have brought down in the Mishnah. So he says, uve plukta kamaidi. We are talking about a plukta. What does that mean? We are dealing with cases of machlokot. But remember, anusat aviv is a machloket because it was a machloket of Yudah Chachamim. Are you allowed to get married? Right? No, that was Rabbi and Levi.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yudah and Chachamim was, are you allowed to get married to anusat aviv? Anusat aviv was, are you allowed to come and get married, right, to somebody that your father violated? So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it was no, and according to Chachamim, yes, because whether you learn it from Eshet or not Eshet, because it says only that your father's wife you cannot marry. So is it only your father's wife or even somebody that he violated? So the Gemara now says, so 1 second. If you're going to tell me now, 1 second. If you're going to tell me now, fine, you know what? So now the Gemara is going to ask the very simple question. So according to this, 1 second. If right now we don't hold, right, and that's what he says. Ravashi says, really, Rebbe himself does not hold of this klal. So if Rebbe doesn't hold of this klal that asura lezeh, muter lezeh, and shtei achayot, so therefore we could have learned anusat aviv. Plus, he has to say that we do deal with machlokot. Because if we do deal with machlokot, then you could bring down anusat aviv. Because if not, anusat aviv goes out the window. So now the question that we ask is, 1 second. So what does it mean that he told the student, right? The kamale. So he answers, hachi kamale. This is what he told him. Why weren't you medayek our Mishnah? The matnitin, Rabbi Yehudahi. This Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yehuda, that he says that it's a surah anusat aviv. Yeah? So if you're going to tell me now that imo anusat aviv is going to fall in front of the Yavam, it's a sur. The Ktani, because we learned in a Mishnah later on. The Mishnah says, shesh arayot chamurot, right, me'elu. There are 6 arayot which are more strict, right, than what? Than these 15 which are brought down in the Mishnah. Because they are married to other people. Tzarotehen mutarot, their tzarot are going to be permitted. So basically we'll stop here and we'll continue Bezrat Hashem, right after. So Kal Kadosh, if you guys remember, we were talking about right now this concept that Rabbi Yehuda, we had to understand if right now we were talking about that it could be also in machloket and so on and so forth. So what is the reason why he told him keep domini and right? So he says, because we said, why didn't you medayik it from the Mishnah? In the Mishnah, we learned that Yehuda says the entire Mishnah is a Yehuda. He says that Anusat Aviv is going to be asur. Why? Because we learned in the Mishnah later on, Yugimel Amud Aleph. Shesh arayot, it's going to be 6 arayot, which are more chamurot than these ones, the 15 that were mentioned. Because they are married to other people, right? And they're not brothers for the father, right? Right? What are these 6? Imo, a person's mother, Eshet Aviv, Achot Aviv, right? So the Gemara is now going to say, what does that mean, Imo? Right? We're going to stop right away. Imo, my Imo. What is the mother? If you're going to tell me that it's the woman which is married to the father, so it's Eshet Aviv. Zelo Imo, Eshet Aviv. Right? Elalav would rather be Anusat Aviv. So therefore, Anusat Aviv is Imo, right? So he says, V'ktani, we learned, so therefore, it comes out that the Mishnah, when it says Imo Anusat Aviv, cannot be talking about, right, to get married to Lachim Mina'av. So Man Shama Le'di Le'Haisvara. How do we know that we hold of this Svara? Rabbi Yehuda, it's Rabbi Yehuda. Te'asar Banusat Aviv, because Rabbi Yehuda, he prohibits Anusat Aviv. Mishum Hachi, and because of this, he comes and he says like this. Because of this, he says, Mishum Hachi lo tani, therefore we didn't learn Anusat Aviv. Okay? Next. Amale Ravina le Ravashi. Says Ravina to Ravashi. Yeah? Le Rabbi Yehuda nami mishkachala. You could find the case of Rabbi Yehuda. When? The Avar v'nasiv. If a person went and he was over on a nisur, okay, and he got married to Anusat Aviv, which means, right, in a case where he got married to Anusat Aviv, yeah, thank you. He says, in a case where he got married to Anusat Aviv, he was over Davida, which means, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, that you're not allowed to get married to Anusat Aviv. Let's say a person did. So if a person did, he was over an Isur. If he was an Isur, then you have this case of the Mishnah. So says the Gemara, the Iloktani, because if we're not going to tell me, right, the Iloktani, if the Mishnah is not going to say im, if a person did this. It doesn't make sense. So Amar le Rav Ashi to Rav Kahana, says Rav Ashi to Rav Kahana, Belo de'i nami mashkachala. Even without the case of the mother falling to Yibum in front of the father, in front of the son, sorry, even without the if it was done with Shelo Kadin. Because remember, what are we trying to say now? We're trying to say now that according to Yehuda, it's a sud. You're not allowed to get married to an Nusat Aviv. So if you're not allowed to get married to an Nusat Aviv, so for it would never be a case where the mother falls in front of the son. It doesn't make sense, right? So he says, no, even with that, you do have it. What's the case? Here. I'm going to share with you guys the screen. So now it says the Gemara like this. Amar le Rav Ashi le Rav Kahana. It says Rav Ashi to Rav Kahana. Even without, right, when we're talking about now over here, even without this case, yeah, you have to go to page 29. Yeah, even without this case, you have the case over here. What's the case? Look at number one. Number one says Yaakov has a child that his name is Reuven. Okay, Reuven takes a woman. His name is Shifra. Okay, now Yaakov comes, right? Yaakov comes and he is Anas Shifra Kalato. Are you guys listening to me?
זה לא בדיאגרמה.
It's a diagram.
אין פה שפרה בדיאגרמה. אין פה שפרה.
One more time. So we just had Yaakov as a son, Reuven. Reuven takes a woman, his name is Shifra. Yaakov comes and he's Anas, his daughter-in-law. Right? Yaakov Anas Shifra Kalato, Vetelet Shifra et Levi mi Yaakov. Right? That means basically Levi came from Yaakov, not from Reuven, his son.
ממזר.
Yeah. Reuven Odisha Ushma Pua. Reuven dies without any children. Now both women, Shifra and Pua, fall in front of Levi to Yibum. Now since Levi cannot come and be Yidu Yibum to Shifra because it's his mother, so for Pua, which is Sarat Imo, becomes permitted as well. So that's the case. Okay. So says the Gemara, Amar le Rav Ashi. We're back in the Gemara. Amar le Rav Ashi le Rav Kahana. Belo dinami neshkachala. Why? Yaakov anas kalato. Holim imana ben. Met Reuven belo banim. Venafla la kamibra. Right? Umigu dia esira. Tzartana misra. So just like Levi cannot get married to Shifra, right? So since Pua is Saratimo is going to be permitted. So so therefore she's permitted. She cannot do Yibum. Yeah. So he comes and he says, Amalei. So comes and the Gemara says, Be'achvata dehetera kamairi. Be'achvata deisura lo kamairi. Our Mishnah is only talking about a brotherhood which came in a permitted way, not in a brotherhood which came in a prohibited way. Here, this is a brotherhood which came in a prohibited way. Yaakov violated his daughter-in-law and has a child, so therefore that child was done b'isur, and therefore that child is a brother, right, or is a half brother to Reuven. So that we're not talking about. Okay? Says the Gemara, ve'afal pichen, and still, right, even though Rebbe was dacha b'charifut the question of Levi, and he says that I don't think, he's got moach b'kol koto, but ke Levi b'matnita, right, Rebbe came and he added in, right, imo anusat aviv, tetani Levi imo pe'amim poteret salata u'pe'amim ena poteret. Which means this. That means even though Rebbe came and he destroyed the Levi, right? He told him, you don't have a muach b'kol kucha. Still, Levi came in his Gemara. He wanted to add it into the Mishnah kilu anusat aviv. Why? Because he brought and he taught imo pe'amim poteret salata pe'amim ena poteret. The mother, sometimes she's going to exempt and sometimes she's not going to be exempt. Yeah, what does that mean? Right? What is the case exactly? So it says Keitzad hayeta imo nesuat aviv. So now this is picture number 56. Hayeta imo nesuat aviv. Veniset nesuat aviv. Veniset la'achiv me'aviv. Umet zo imo shem poteret ota tzarata. Which means like this. Look at this picture now, 56. So in picture 56, you have Yaakov has two wives, Naomi and Chana. Okay, Naomi comes and she has a child, Reuven. Chana has a child, right? Shimon. Okay, Yaakov dies. Okay, now Shimon takes Naomi, right? The mother of Reuven. Okay, so Shimon gets married to the mother of Reuven, which is Naomi. Okay, Shimon, right? Odisha, Ushma Rachel. Okay, so now that's why the not dotted lines, the dotted lines are children. Okay, and the straight lines is husband and wife. So Shimon got married to Rachel. Now Shimon dies without children. Now both women, Naomi and Rachel, fall in front of, right, Reuven. Okay, so one more time. Yaakov has two children. One child from Naomi, one child from Hannah, which is basically Reuven and Shimon. Okay, 56. Yeah, so now says the Gemara, so in this case, the mother is not going to exempt Rachel. Meaning Reuven's mother, Naomi, is not going to exempt Rachel because since Shimon was prohibited to get married to Naomi in the beginning, so therefore, even though Naomi is Reuven's mother, but it couldn't have done it. It's considered that she's not really the wife. So she's not really the wife. Rachel is in a problem. She has to do Yibum. Okay, Yudamu bet, right? 10b. Okay. So he says, Aita imo anusat aviv, then he said la'achiv me'aviv umet, zo imo sheptoret tzarata. ועבדי ששנו חכמים משנתנו 15, יש לנו להוסיף 16 בגון זו. So therefore, now like this. What was the anusat aviv, which is poteret tzarata? That's this case here. Picture number 57, 57. There you have again, Yaakov as a child, Reuven. Okay? And Yaakov was anas, okay, at Esther. Okay? Sorry, Yaakov as a child, Shimon, right? And then, right, Yaakov was anas Esther and he has Reuven. Okay, now what happens is as follows. So Reuven and Shimon are brothers from the father. Okay, Shimon comes and he takes Esther anusat aviv. So if you remember, this is the machloket of Yehuda Chachamim. Okay, now Shimon had another wife called Miriam. Shimon dies without children. So now Esther and Miriam fall in front of Reuven to do Yibum. So therefore, in this case, the mother is poteret tzarata because Kiddushin. Yes. Why? Because in this case, what happens is as follows. In this case, Esther was only anusat aviv. Therefore, it's chayve lavin. It's a lav. It's not karet. Since it's only a lav and it's not karet, so therefore, what happens is that the kiddushim are tosim. It's a good kiddushim. So since it's a good kiddushin, when Shimon got married to Esther, it was a good kiddushin. So now when Shimon dies, Esther was 100% married to Shimon. So therefore, Esther cannot go fall in front of Yibum to Reuven because Shimon went and got married to Esther. Right? Anusat aviv. Anusat aviv. Anusat aviv. By 1 second. So because of this, the Gemara says a really bad math. Even though in our Mishnah it's written 15, you could really learn 16. So Amar, yeah, Amar le Resh Lakish le Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Resh Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan. Yeah, he comes and he says like this. He says, Levi, Damar dinamik tani litni. 1 second. If you're already going to tell me Levi, and this is the Shita, so why don't you learn another one? Because remember, obviously our Mishnah is not like Levi, right? You understand? Because obviously we don't go like Levi. Right? We're going like the Rav. There's only 50, not 16. He added on an extra one. But now what happens now is as follows. Yeah? He comes and he says, right? Says Levi Damar dynamic tani, that if it would have, meaning if the person did the Yisur, and therefore you have to come and you have to teach it, what does that mean? Imagine right now you have a case where another case in our Mishnah, you don't have 16, you should have 17 according to Levi. What's number 17? Imagine right now you have a case where somebody does chalitza to the Yevamah, and then afterwards he's mekadesh ota odapam, right? Which means first he does chalitza and then he does ibum. Now after that, mebelo banim. Okay. Now this woman is prohibited to all the brothers because of eshetach. Now if she has atzara, she should also be permitted, right? Permitted meaning prohibited to everybody because she's sarat asura. Therefore it's prohibited. Migu deihi asura sarata nami asira. Because migu, that she herself is prohibited, so also her tzara should also be prohibited. So Amalei comes and he answers that fishe'ena betzarat tzara. In this case, there's no existing case of tzarat tzara. And therefore, since there's no existing case of tzara tzara, we only learned in our Mishnah the cases where you could have tzara tzara, not only by itself. So because of that, even if you would tell me about the Isurim and about everything, because again, remember, according to Levi, which obviously we don't like, because we don't like to say that our Mishnah is talking about that the person did an Isu. But here, according to Levi, person was avar an Isu, and he got married to Anusati Mo, or he was an Askalator, all the different cases that we had over here, right? But here, all of a sudden, he's saying, there's another case, Chalitza, and then then he came and he got married to her. Now, we know after a person does Chalitza, that's it. Nigmara Sipur. You're not allowed to marry her afterwards, right? So now what happens is that he says here, since she's not tzara tzara, that's why it's going to be a problem. Okay? So he comes and he says like this. Okay, he comes and he says like this. He comes and he says like this. What is the case of Fishana b'tzara tzara? In diagram 58 over here, we have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. They're all brothers. Okay? Reuven comes and he takes Rachel as a wife. Reuven dies without children. Now his wife falls in front of the brothers. Shimon does chalitza. Okay? Now Shimon comes and then after he gets married to Rachel. Okay? So now he says to Shimon has another wife, her name is Miriam. Now Shimon dies without children. So now Rachel is prohibited to Levi and Yehuda, okay, because once there was chalitza done, so then that's it. So if they go with her, now it's again Ashetach, it's karet. And therefore, what? No, he got married to Rachel after he did chalitza. So therefore it says, we didn't teach the Mishnah because, right, it says over here, enam b'tzarat tzara. Right, so it comes out that Miriam, tzarata, is prohibited to all the brothers, b'shaveh, and she cannot do yibum to Levi, so therefore she's going to prohibit Esther, tzarata. Okay? So now comes the Gemara and says as follows. The lay malay, why don't we just say, yeah, chayavel lavin. Why don't we just say it's considered chayavel lavin, right? The chayavel lavin b'nei chalitza v'yibum ninu, which means this. Why don't we just say that Rabbi Yochanan, he could come and he could tell Resh Lakish that we can't count this because it's chayavel lavin and there's no ownership of karet. Remember, whenever there's a lav, there's no karet. It's only there's karet, there's karet. So he says, so therefore, that is the shita of Rabbi Yochanan. The Yevamos nechletza is prohibited only in nisur lav, not in nisur karet, which means this. Imagine right now, a person comes and he does chalitza to the sister-in-law. He does chalitza. Now he marries. What prohibition does he transgress? According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's a lav only. It's a negative commandment. And therefore, chayvel lavin, they do chalitza nibum. But if it was going to be a karet, which that's also one of the shitot, you can't do it. So answers the Gemara, lidvarav kamale, he's saying according to your reason. Meaning like this. Ledidi, according to me, chayvel lavin him. It's all negative commandments. And chayvel lavin, they could do b'nei chalitza v'ibum. They could do chalitza nibum, and therefore there's no question. Ela ledidcha, but according to you, chayvel kritut ninu. It's karet, right? So therefore the reason why you don't count it in the Mishnah is because of Shena b'tzarat tzara, because they cannot come, right, and they cannot be tzarat tzara. So it says the Gemara, so it says now the Gemara as follows, okay? Itmar was stated, Hacholetz levimto, if somebody does chalitza to a Yevama, the Chazar v'kitcha, and then he gets married to her, right, after doing the chalitza, Amar Shakish says Shakish, hu en chayav ala chalutza karet, right, v'achin chayavim ala chalutza karet, which is very interesting. It's like we're dividing, which means the one that did the chalitza, if he now comes and gets married to this woman again, he's not chayav karet according to Resh Lakish. But the other brothers that get married to him do have, right, are also chayavim, also are chayavim karet. Now ala tzara, on the tzara of the chalutza, benhu ben achim chayavim al tzara karet. So on the tzara of this woman, they are chayavim karet. Everybody. That means according to Resh Lakish, remember, according to Resh Lakish, there's always karet if she did chalitza and then somebody got married to her, except for the actual brother that did the chalitza. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, ben hu ben achim, enam chayavim. They're never going to be chayav. Lo ala chalutza karet, v'lo ala tzar karet. That means according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's only isur lav. There's no, like according to Shtat Rabbi Yochanan, there is no karet, there's only lav. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, it doesn't matter if it's that brother, other brothers, doesn't matter whether it's the chalutza or the tzara of the chalutza. In all the cases, now says the Gemara, "My tama de Resh Lakish, my tama de Resh Lakish." Says the Gemara, what is the reasoning of Resh Lakish? Amaka, it says in the pasuk, asher lo yivne et bet achiv, which means kacha yaseh leish. This is what you're going to do in the right. That's what we just read in the Megillah. Kacha yaseh leish. Kacha yaseh leish asher lo yivne bet achiv. So there in the Torah it says that he's not going to build the house of his brother. Kevan shelo bana, according to Reish Lakish, the second that he didn't build the house of the brother was he didn't do yibum, he did chalitza. Shuv lo yivne. Right? They're not going to do anymore the bniyah. That's it. Once he did the chalitza, gamarnu. So we learn from here that lo yivne, the words lo yivne bet achiv, that's how we learn that he's not allowed to do it. Ihu hu dekayb lo yivne. Only the one that did the chalitza is over on the yisur of lo yivne. Aval echav, but the other brothers, they still have the eshetach as always. Which means, remember, the eshetach was always prohibited. It's always prohibited to get married to the sister-in-law. You only have a special permission over here because of ibum. So he says the other brothers, they still stay in the same isur, but only this brother is a special din. So he has the isur of lo yivneh, hatzara, and also the tzara is everything normal. So because of that, that's a shita of Reish Lakish, which makes sense. It says, right, the cholet is not chayav on the chalutza karet, right? But everybody else is going to be karet, okay? So it doesn't matter whether it's the tzara, because the tzara stays in the same status quo as always, and it doesn't matter about the other brothers, because the other brothers always had a shetach. So it's only the one that's doing the chalitza, he has a different din, okay? It's a different halacha, okay? That it's going to be a lav and not, it's not going to be karet. Rabbi Yochanan, and according to Rabbi Yochanan, Mika Midi, does it make sense? The Meikara, that at the beginning, Ibai hai chalitz, Ibai hai chalitz, that every single brother could do chalitza. And if one of the brothers wanted to do the chalitza, he would do it. And if the other one wanted, he could do it. The hashta, now all of a sudden, that one of the brothers went, but they did chalitza, kaya la bekaret, all of a sudden now there's going to be a yisur karet. How could it be? It doesn't make sense. 5 minutes ago, any of the brothers could have done yibum. 5 minutes later, now all of a sudden there's karet. What's going on? Ela ihu shlichuta de achim kad. This brother that he did the chalitza, he was doing it on behalf of the brothers, right? Ihi, but the Yevama shlichuta de tzara kabda. She's doing the shlichut of the tzara, and therefore the chalitza was done by all the brothers and for all the tzarot. So therefore the love of lo yivneh is to everybody together. Meaning the Yevama, when she did the chalitza, it was chalitza done to her, but it's also going to be poter her tzara, her other wife. And the brother that's doing chalitza, he's doing it on the shlichut of all the brothers as well. So everybody's in the same package. So if everybody's in the same package, so everybody only has a lav. There's no karet, right? So therefore, all the brothers are exempt from karet, whether it's on the chalitza, whether it's on the tzara. It's only dinim of lav. That is the shita of Rabbi Yochanan, which also makes sense. So now let's try to analyze this. Eitvei Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish asks Rabbi Yochanan to Reish Lakish, hacholetz livimto v'chazar v'kitsha. Imagine a person does chalitza to a Yevama. And then after doing the chalitza to the Yevama, chazar v'kitsha. Okay? Which, again, he did chalitza, and then afterwards he went and got married to her. Umet, now he dies. Tzicha chalitza min achim. So she needs to do chalitza min achim. So now this is a braita. The braita says mefurash that she still needs to do chalitza. Bishlema ledidi, it's good according to me, that I'm going to say chayve lavin, meaning Rav Yochanan is going to shitato. And he's asking a question, right? He says, for me, it's a lav. So since it's a lav, she has to do chalitza minachim. Why? Because it's a good marriage. Remember, if it's only chayve lavin, kiddushin tofsin chayve lavin, which means the kiddushin is a good, viable marriage on lavin, right? And therefore, you need to do chalitza again. But according to you, right, you're going to tell me, right, that it's going to be karet. Why do you need the chalitza? The marriage wasn't a good marriage because when he got married to her, he's chayav karet, and by chayav kritut, there's no kiddushin tofsim. So answers the Gemara, v'litamech, right? And according to your reasoning, so says Gemara, ultamech answers Reish Lakish, ultamech, and according to your reasoning, Masechet. Let's see the seifa. The seifa says, amad echad min ha'achim lekitsha. What happens if one of the brothers went, right, and he got married to her? Which means the seifa of that braita comes and he says, let's say if he didn't do, right, it wasn't the one that did the chalitza that got married to her, another brother got married to her. En la alav klum, which means the kiddushim are not tofsim. Now, the Shakish now from the seifa of that braita is going to ask against Rabbi Yochanan, and he's going to say, if you're going to tell me now it's chayve lavininu, so am I in alav klum? Why is it nothing? According to you, it should be a good marriage. Meaning the other brother that now came, remember, the older brother came and he did chalitza. Now another brother comes and he gets married to her, and now he dies. So now, why all of a sudden you don't have
תחליט,
proof?
לא תקח,
Why
לא
at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, if it's going to be an isur lav, kiddushim are tofsim. So what does it mean en la lev krum? It is krum, right? It is something here. So Amar Rav Shasha comes and he says, the seifa tan Rebbe Kiva, right? The seifa of that Mishnah is actually going according to Rebbe Kiva. Ta'amar en kiddushim tofsim chayvelim, which means it is. Shitat Rebbe Kiva is much more stricter, right, than the Chachamim. That according to
אפילו גם
Rebbe
בלאווים
Kiva,
לא נותן.
even in chayvel lavin, even in negative commandments, kiddushim are not tofsim. And since kiddushim are not going to be tofsim, so therefore, right, that's the safe of that Mishnah that it says it's not. So ask the Gemara, the leads me. So why don't we then learn in the Braita that Rabbi Akiva and all of you should have said mefurash on the Braita. We're only going according to Rabbi Akiva. So answers the Gemara, Kasha. That is actually a very good question, right? Why didn't we actually say that mefurash in the Braita?